Hi, I wanted to give you an introduction to the material that I'm giving you right now. So you can start kind of looking at the material, seeing how it's put together, what you're going to need to be doing with this information, and how it's kind of broken down. That way, you just have an understanding when we get going with the class what we're actually going to be doing. So these are the Google Docs that I have set up, and not all of these are for you. Some of these go back to Art History 1, so if you look ancient, obviously we're not doing ancient. Islamic is going to be Art History 1 as well, medieval is Art History 1 as well. We're really starting down here in the Renaissance, and so that will be our starting place in the book and in the lectures that you will be responsible for. So we're going from Renaissance to contemporary art. Now, in the Google Docs, I have them set up kind of underneath the major heading of that time period. So in the Renaissance, you open up the Renaissance doc, you're going to see both Northern and Italian Renaissance. Um, that's normally how in art history we kind of section out the Renaissance. When you get into other time periods or styles, movements, we kind of use those words interchangeably, you're going to start to see that it might be broken out by country. So the next movement would be Baroque, and Baroque will be sectioned out by Italian, French, Northern, and I think I also have England in the Baroque section, although England doesn't really have a quote-unquote Baroque style or Baroque period. It kind of falls under a different heading, but because the Baroque generally talks about a certain time period, corresponds to a certain kind of era, so basically the 1600s into the 1700s, I've put anything that corresponds to that time period for the English into the Baroque section. So I hope that doesn't confuse you. And I'll show you that I also put the actual stylistic movement next to the title of the artwork within these different sections to kind of help clarify that. Now it gets a little bit more complex when we start getting into the modern period, just because we start to get consecutive movements happening at the same time. So you'll have, you know, maybe four different stylistic movements happening. And so it gets a little bit more confusing when you start to get later on in art history. But hopefully by then you're a little bit more comfortable with understanding stylistic movements, and so that won't be as confusing for you. And I think I've got it set up where I'll give you enough background information for you to kind of be able to tell and look at and see the differences. So let's get into the Renaissance, and I'll show you hopefully a little bit more of what I mean by that. So the Renaissance is going to be the first one you actually look at. So you're going to click on the Renaissance. It's going to go to the Renaissance page, and I've got set up in here resources, videos, text for you to look at in order to kind of do your first section. Now here's the thing with the Renaissance. Because the Renaissance is this rebirth of information and a rebirth of style and a rebirth of learning, there's a lot in the Renaissance section. When you start to go through the other sections, like when you open up the Baroque, there's going to be many more different countries, but there's not going to be as many videos or lecture points that you're going to need to look at. So hopefully you don't get a little overwhelmed when you look at the Renaissance. You can finish up the Renaissance in the Baroque section, just because there's not going to be as many videos, lectures, and things for you to do with the Baroque. Renaissance is just, it's a little heavy. So I kind of want to show you what I have in this section. So you see Renaissance up at the top. Here you see some references. You are not responsible for the references. I have those there in case you hear something that you might want to look at. So you see Giorgio Vasari's Lives of the Artist, The Golden Legends, and an interactive website talking about Renaissance architecture. The Lives of the Artist, Giorgio Vasari, he was a Renaissance painter, and he starts this biography of all these different Renaissance artists, Michelangelo, Leonardo, all this kind of stuff. So he's kind of a reference guide. If you're studying the Renaissance and you're studying artists, he's kind of your go-to guy. You kind of have to take him with a little grain of salt, because he has particular artists he really loves, and so he exalts them. He's also a little bit of a gossiper, so he's adding a little bit of like TMZ style people gossip into his book. So you kind of have to be like, okay, how much of Vasari is actually real, true? The Golden Legend you will also hear in these lectures, and the Golden Legend is basically a book and collection of stories about the saints. They're not biblical stories, but they're tied in with the legends of the saints. And so This was a book that many of the Renaissance artists would go and reference in order to get an understanding of maybe the saint they were supposed to paint, and because of that, they would know the iconography they should use. And what I mean by iconography, if we go up here and we look at St. Lucy, the story of St. Lucy says she loses her eyes. And so here, in order for people to know what saint they're looking at, the Renaissance artists would paint St. Lucy usually with a plant, like a martyr's palm, and then also some sort of dish, plate, saucer, something like what we're seeing here, with eyes on it. And so that is the iconography for St. Lucy. And that's how you would know who you're looking at. And that comes from the Golden Legends. So again, references, not necessarily something you need to look at. Here is a link to the YouTube channels for the Italian Renaissance, and I'll show you that in just a second. And then here's your essentials section, like I was talking about in the introductory lecture or letter. These are all the ones that you really need to watch that will be testable material, and it's set up in two ways. I have these all linked into Smart History, which is a website, goes through all this information about art history, and it's a good reference guide, but they're also in YouTube. So you've got two ways you can watch these. You can either click on each one of these individually, and it will take you into Smart History. So I'll show you Masaccio's Tribute Money, and you can see I've put in here it's from Smart History. It has both video and it has text. And then right here I've told you it's early Italian Renaissance. Down here you can see high Italian Renaissance, late Italian Renaissance. So it's telling you what time period, what movement, what style this particular art piece is attached to. And so if we clicked on Masaccio's Tribute Money, go down here and click on the link, it will take you into Smart History. And so this is Smart History, the website for Smart History. It's got the video for you to watch. And then if you want the text, it also will have text. You don't need to read the text, but I know some people like to be able to read and watch, or maybe have kind of reference points or something of that nature. So some of these actually have text and video, and that's why I've linked you back into Smart History. Or you can go into YouTube, that link that I showed you up here will take you directly to the Italian Renaissance YouTube channel that I've set up. And so in my YouTube, Kaylee Humanities, I have put in playlist for you to be able to kind of go in and start watching the videos in here. Now in YouTube, you can also turn on the closed captioning for these videos. I will say not all the closed captioning for the Smart History videos in YouTube is really great. You know, it kind of gets across the major points, but I can't say it's really wonderful. So we'll go to the Italian Renaissance one, which I think is down at the bottom. I'm going to try and reorder these in kind of chronological order for you. So if you go into Italian Renaissance, you'll see it's all in a playlist, and it will go straight through as it is in here. So you can see introduction to Filippo Brunelleschi's experiment regarding linear perspective, Masaccio's expulsion of Adam and Eve, the tribute money, and if you go back in here, you'll see Brunelleschi's perspective, Masaccio's Adam and Eve, tribute money. And so if you don't want to have to click on each one of the different individual links taking you into Smart History, because say you don't care about the text, you can just watch the playlist here, and it will go directly from one video into the next video. So kind of give you a straight shot, make it really easy for you to watch them. So that's kind of how the setup is. Now you've got the essentials, these are ones you're going to need to watch. I am going to put on these, like with Michelangelo's Sistine Ceiling. This is a rather long video. I'm going to put after this really kind of the crucial part that you need to watch. So I'll probably say, starting at, minute 5, going to minute 8 is really what you need to watch of this video. You can watch the whole thing if you want. I think it's about 17, 18 minutes, but really I'm going to give you kind of the essential time period on that one you need to watch. So, whatever small part of it is the most crucial. That way you're not watching, 20 minutes of a video that isn't really necessary for the class. Now, I do have it broken down from painting, essential sculpture, and architecture. And you might be saying, oh my gosh, it's like so many videos. Um, I'm going to try and make sure that the videos run about the length of like what a week's worth of classes would run. So somewhere around 2.5 hours worth of video. That way it kind of correlates to if we were in class and doing a lecture, kind of the amount of time you'd be listening. Now the next section would be pick, and in the pick, if there's just a ton, which we really do have just a ton of essential videos for Italian Renaissance, I will probably say, don't worry about watching a lot of the pick videos. They're not going to be as important, as critical, as vital. These ones up here are kind of the absolute must, kind of the canonical images, canonical kind of art of the Italian Renaissance. And what I mean by canonical is if you open up a survey book of art history, these are going to be the images you're more than likely going to see. And these are the artists you're more than likely going to see. Down here are kind of, not that they're second-rate artists, but they're just maybe a hair under the artist up above. Or say like down here with Leonardo, maybe I've put in the essential videos kind of like the images you really should know, and not that Leonardo's Virgin of the Rocks is any less important than, say, the Mona Lisa, but I put kind of like the essential Leonardo images up in the essential section. And then these are kind of, if you want more information, you can go down here. Again, same thing with Raphael. Raphael, major artist, but you don't need to watch 7 videos on Raphael. So that's kind of how I have this set up. Then there's, and that's also set up by painting, sculpture, architecture. And then there's supplemental. These are kind of like if you just have a lot of time on your hands, or you're just really interested in this time period, these would be, videos you can watch, now, or since this is in Google Docs, say maybe over the summer, because you'll be able to keep access to Google Docs. And that's one reason I did set this up in Google Docs, is that with Blackboard opens up, you have access to the information, Blackboard closes at the end of the semester, and you lose all your access to all the information you had in class. Well, Google Docs will always be open. You will always have access to Google Docs. And so maybe over the summer when you have more time and you're like, oh yeah, I remember something about Vasari, kind of want to watch something on Vasari, here you have this BBC video with Andrew Graham Dixon, who is an art historian and art critic in England. Really good, love his stuff, and you can watch the videos there. And those two are going to be in YouTube. So say we scrolled all the way down, I think if I'm all the way down at the bottom here, you can watch those as well. So all the videos, and you see there are a lot of videos. So don't look at 69 Italian Renaissance videos and freak out and go, oh my gosh, she wants us to watch 69 Italian Renaissance videos. No, 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 no. That would be like, several weeks of information. Really, you're going to be watching, let's see, up here into the critical, you've got maybe 19 on the must watch. And really these videos are going to run somewhere between 2 to 7 minutes long on average. And so really, some of them are very short, some of them are a little bit longer. Now when we go down to the Northern Renaissance, you're going to notice the number of videos drops dramatically. And that's really important because really the Italian Renaissance is a little overwhelming. And it's a little unfortunate we start there just because I don't want you to freak out when you look at the number of videos we have for the Italian Renaissance. I'm going to try and go through and just make sure that I really do have it pared down to kind of the essential ones. So here's the essential ones for the Northern Renaissance. And I'm actually going to move this one on Dur down. It's going to run just a little bit too long, and I'll make one for Dur. That way, if you want to watch the one on Dur, I highly recommend it. It's really great, but it will run you just a little bit longer. So here we have for the painting. It's a much narrower number of images and videos for that section. There's no architecture for this section. There's only one sculpture, and even when we get down here for the pick section, it's much more narrow, much more Spartan. So just kind of know that depending on what time period, what movement you're looking at, one country over another might be a little bit more important than the other. Actually, let's go into the Baroque and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So we go back, we can open up the Baroque, and once it gets open, you'll see, okay, so we've got Italian, same kind of thing, overview for Baroque architecture, and then we look at Italy. There's only 4 essential painting, 2 essential sculpture, 2 essential architecture. Much, much more Spartan than the Italian Renaissance. And really, Italian Renaissance and some of the modern are going to be the most heavy sections. The rest of them are going to be a little bit more like this. Now with the Baroque, we are going to kind of section out a little bit more by country. So here's Italy, and even in the pick section, you can see it's much more Spartan when we get to the Baroque, even with the supplemental. Then we get to French. You've got, 1 painting, although I might be adding just a little bit more here to the French because there are some, a little bit more essential painters than just Nicolas Poussin. There's no sculpture that I have in here. Sculpture, there's some important sculptures, just not really essential French Baroque sculptures. And then Versailles is really kind of like the thing for that time period. So Versailles is going to be what I have you watch for the architecture. You're going to see, then you have the Northern Baroque, and I'm going to add just a few in here for the Northern Baroque. It is an important time period, a lot of different things going on in that, but you can see a lot less in the different sections. Spain, really, Velázquez is going to be the most important, and really the only one you have to watch. And then England down here, like I said before, England doesn't really have a true Baroque era. You've got Anthony van Dyck. He painted under Rubens, and then he decides that he's a great painter, wonderful painter, but he decides he's going to have more success if he moves away from Rubens and he moves away from the Spanish court that is ruling in the Netherlands, and he actually goes to England and he paints in England. Sir Christopher Wren for building, but then even in the picture section here, I've got really nothing that you need to choose from. And that's kind of it. So you can see Baroque, much more Spartan, not as heavy, and so you can kind of work through the Italian Renaissance maybe in the Baroque section if you feel like it, if you kind of have some videos left over. So this is going to be how these kind of style guides work. I'll show you another one so you can see that really the Baroque, neoclassical, some of the other styles are much more Spartan than what we saw with the Italian Renaissance. So let's open up neoclassical. So here in neoclassical for Italy, I basically have nothing for you. I might add 1 or 2 in there, but during this time period, France and the northern countries, those are the more dominant neoclassical areas. And so in France, I will add a few more in here, but you're looking at a very small number of painters for the neoclassical, and really kind of like the top people. Vigée Lebrun, David, those are kind of like the really, really important people. I will be putting in some northern artists. There just weren't any videos at the moment that I could add in, and so northern's going to be pretty Spartan as well. English you have at the moment too, and I will be adding to these the styles that I want you to know for them. America, we finally get in there. 1 in here for America, and it's even in the pick section, so it's not even in the essential section. And here's the thing for the pick section that I want you to know. When it says pick, I am literally saying from each one of these countries, say I said, sorry, let me make this a little bit clearer. So the essentials for every single section. So if there were essentials under the Italian, you need to watch that. Essentials for France, you have to watch that. On down the line, northern essentials, you have to watch those. When it gets to the pick section, I say for this section, pick 4 pick videos you want to watch. That means from any of the pick videos. So even if I have 30 Italian pick videos here, 40 French, pick videos here, on down the line, I'm saying 4 from all of them on this sheet, not 4 from, the northern section, not and, plus 4 from the French section, plus 4 from the Italian section. I'm saying from all the pick sections on this sheet, pick 4. So say when you're watching these, you really, really love the French, and that's really all you want to watch. All your 4 picks can be from the French section. If you really loved maybe William Hogarth, and I had a bunch of William Hogarth picks in here, then you can pick all of the William Hogarth pick videos. Right now I don't have anything there, but I'm just giving you an example. So that's going to be how that works. And then the supplemental, you don't need to watch those at all. They're just there in case you're really interested, or again, maybe over summer you have a lot of time on your hands and you got really interested in Italian Renaissance painting. Then you could go back and watch those. Or you got really interested in neoclassical, you could go back and watch those. So I hope that clarifies kind of how to use these. I do kind of wanted to show you the modern, just because the modern does get a little trickier in that you have a lot of different movements going on during this time period. So again, overview stuff, you don't need to, again, watch the overview or the reference material. That's kind of there to kind of help if you have some questions. Hopefully that will help guide you through or answer some of the questions. Again, Italy for this time period, not so essential. There's not really a lot coming out of Italy that's really monumental. But you get to the French, and holy moly, the French kind of take over. And you have movements like realism, or styles like realism, impressionism, post-impressionism, pointillism, and you'll see sometimes I'll give you 2 names. So with George Seurat, yes, he is a post-impressionist, but he also paints in the pointillist style. So sometimes you'll see 2 in there, and it's kind of an either or. You can call him an either or on that. So here I've given you the different styles because it does get a little bit confusing. Impressionism is different than post-impressionism, and so I've put the names on there to kind of help clarify it and keep it a little bit easier for you. So you can see there are a lot more kind of essential ones in here. I am going to go through and make sure that I don't have an overwhelming number of images in the essential section, just really kind of like the major guys, like you can't leave out Claude Monet, you can't leave out Van Gogh, Seurat, Renoir. Those guys are really, really important. So it's probably going to be a little bit heavier on the pick section in here, but again, you really only have to pick 4 per sheet. So even though there's a lot here, going down to the northern, Austria, England, it really kind of drops off. For England, really the pre-Raphaelite movement, it's not an essential movement for you to know. Some people really love the pre-Raphaelite period. I happen not to be one of those people, but it's there if you want to watch all pre-Raphaelite videos. All 4 of your pre-Raphaelite, or all 4 of your pick videos could be pre-Raphaelites, and you can just, say, well, I've seen enough French art, I don't need to watch any more pick videos from the French section. So even down to America and Spain, there's just not a lot in there. And again, a lot of it's down in the pick section because it's not as essential. Now I will let you know, that might be a little bit overwhelming for you to even know what you want to watch. So once you've gone through and you've watched, let's go back up to the top of the French. So say you've watched the essential French videos, and I might cut this by a little bit, and then you get to the pick section, and you're just like, I really have no clue. I don't know who Rosa Bruner is, or Caillebotte, how important is he? I will probably put some sort of marker or indication, maybe like the 4 videos from the pick section that I think are the most essential. That way, if you really have no clue, and you're a little bit overwhelmed by the number of pick videos, you'll know which ones that I've said, if you've got to pick from the pick videos and you don't have really like ones you want to watch, I'll have them set up so that okay, these are the ones that are, the most important from the pick section, or what I think are the most important from the pick section. You can just go ahead and watch those. So I hope that kind of helps clarify how to use these guides, and I will go through and kind of make them a little bit clearer a little bit more easy to understand. They'll look a little bit more like the Renaissance ones where, I've bolded things so it's a little bit easier to look at and to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I do want to point out one other thing. Let me see up here. You'll see these kind of like stars. I've done the stars if it's just, and it looks like I've made a mistake on this one. Go ahead and fix that. If it's just text, or, oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's not right. I have the stars next to things that are not in the YouTube video section. So this one, the National Gallery, those are not in the YouTube. The videos themselves were not in YouTube. I've got them off of the National Gallery's website itself. And so those you'll actually have to go to the website and actually watch themselves. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of these videos that are Smart History. I've used Smart History just because they've already got the videos made. They already have things like closed captioning on them. They're very well done. In a lot of cases, they have backup text to them. Actually, let's go to Smart History again and pick a different one. So, in here in the Donatello David section, they actually have, other things you might want to check out. They've got the written section of what's being said. They've got the video. So that's why I've used a lot of Smart History. Now, they don't have everything. So you will get videos in here in the YouTube that are my recordings that I've done, and I'll upload those as well, and they will come in. I've only uploaded a few of my videos yet, and so I will insert those into YouTube when I've got that kind of completed. So I want you to kind of be aware of these different bits and pieces that will kind of go into making a fuller experience, especially when it gets to like the Baroque. The Baroque was a little Spartan in the Smart History videos. The Neoclassical was a little Spartan, or I didn't think that they picked maybe the top painting to do. And here you can see Smart History. They've also got it set up by style. So if you want to go exploring around, prehistory, you can go through and look at prehistory, or say they mention something about Greece. You can kind of go through and you can find, oh, okay, Greek art, and maybe get some background information. It's another reason that I've kind of used this as a basis for the class. It makes it a little bit easier. They've got a bunch of references, and hopefully it will, kind of help you along. But, say you wanted to go exploring yourself. Here's kind of our time period. Well, this is actually a little bit ahead of us. So here's kind of our time period, starting in the 1500s. And so a lot of these videos have been pulled from here. Now, I didn't do every section, and I kind of pulled the ones that I thought were the most essential. So they do have more videos actually in here, but again, you can look at those after the class is done. Sometimes I'll have an introduction, which is really great. So I didn't necessarily put these in, but text on an introduction, what's going on in Florence during the early Renaissance. It does matter for how the art kind of works out, but I haven't put that in. So, it's something that you can go look at if you're kind of confused as a supplement to your book and to the videos that I'll put up and put in. So I hope that helps clarify. If you have any questions before the class starts, I'll try and be good about at least checking the Atlas email. It's not my preferred email to use, but I'll kind of be checking back to see if you have any questions, or if I've been clear enough in this video kind of explaining how to use these references and how to kind of think about the class. So I look forward to the class with you starting February 9th. Again, I will take into consideration that we're going to have a very short class as opposed to, the normal 15-week class that we would have in the in say like normal springtime. So I will probably go back through and make sure that I haven't given you an overwhelming amount of information for a shorter class. So I will edit these style guides down a little bit more, making sure I'm not overwhelming you, and making sure that but also making sure that you've got kind of the essential information. Now, like I said in the intro reference letter, you will have mini or little short activities to do each week just to make sure that you're staying up with the material. So at the end of the week, there may be a few questions to answer, maybe like 3 or 4 questions to answer. Hey, what did you think about this? Or journal entry, and I'll have the journal set up in Blackboard where, I'll say, what did you think about the Baroque? Or what are the characteristics in the Baroque? Um, how do you think the Baroque compares to um, the Renaissance or something of that nature? Or a discussion, hey, in the discussion section, I may say, pose the question, discuss the characteristics of the Northern Renaissance. And so you would basically be saying, these are the things that I saw consistently throughout the Northern Renaissance. The women have very high foreheads. The women generally look like they're pregnant. The folds of the clothing are very angular. Um, they use very bright colors, tons of detail, and overuse of symbolism. These are all kind of characteristics of the time period, and I'll usually give you some sort of example so you know what I'm kind of looking for. So there'll be like short little discussions, little things, just to make sure that you're checking in and you're doing the work, and then we will have a standard 3-test kind of policy, and I'll try and fit the test into weeks where we really have kind of like a smaller amount of videos to watch and stuff like that, so it's not kind of overwhelming. You will have style guides. I'll put the style guides into the Google Docs. That way, you could even start doing the study guides. That way you can go ahead and start doing the study guides for the class if you want. And the study guides will be pretty much where I'll be pulling the majority of the test material from. That way you kind of know, again, narrowing down that massive amount of information kind of down to its essential stuff. The pick section will be where you're going to be doing your questions, kind of weekly activities off of, or semi-weekly activities off of. And let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you. You will have to do a paper because this is an art history 2 class. It's a Gordon Rule class, so there will be a short paper, and I'll put the paper information up. And I'll probably also try and get the paper subjects up. They'll probably be off of either the pick section or the supplemental section, so I'll probably be pulling paper topics off of those. And so maybe you can go ahead and start picking your topics for your paper and doing the research if you want to ahead of time before the class opens up as well. Especially, I know I talked with a couple of you all before the semester started, and you were going to have pretty heavy semester, so I want to make sure that if you want to, you can get a jump on this information. All right, well, I'm looking forward to the class. Again, if you have any questions, email me an atlas before the class starts on February 10th. And if you have any questions about how the style guide or study guides work, I'll try and get those up soon. You can ask me. If you have any more questions about how these, weekly kind of sections work, you can let me know. And again, you can start reading your book if you want. So hopefully we'll have a great time. I think the subject's really interesting, so hopefully you do too. And I will see you all later. Bye.